Good morning. It's 9 o'clock, and we're going to call this Commissioners Court to order. Is it Commissioner Majewski's turn? Commissioner Majewski, would you please introduce our pastor today?
Yeah, this morning we'll have Ross Shelton from First Baptist Church to lead us in the invocation, then we'll do the pledges.
If you feel that, will you join me in prayer? God, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for our country. I thank you for our state. I thank you for our county. I thank you for our elected officials, both here in this room and state and national. I thank you for the men and women who you've called into this elected office. And God, I pray that you will give them wisdom and courage and discernment as they make decisions in this calling that you've given to them. God, I thank you for our first responders. I thank you, Lord, for them. I thank you for their families. And I pray, God, you'll keep them safe as they keep our community safe. God, I thank you today for our county workers as well. I thank you for all that they do in our county. I especially thank our county workers during this recent snowstorm. I thank you for keeping them safe as they cleared bridges and overpasses, and I thank you for them. And so, God, I thank you for our county. I thank you for our leaders. And I pray this with respect and consideration to all present. I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Our pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
I just wanted to let everyone know that Judge Sternberger's wife had a medical emergency yesterday and that he is with her today. So please keep them in your prayers, okay? All right. So the next item on the agenda is the presentation to the Washington County Historical Commission's annual report. Mr. Stevens, how are you today?
Hi, Ms. Hannah. Well, everybody
Good
has
morning.
a copy of our annual report in their packet, and it's way too long to read. Suffice it to say, I think we've had a great year in 2024. I think we hope we made Washington County proud of us, and I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Commissioners, you've had this for a couple of weeks. I will tell you the reason it's so lengthy is because the Historical Commission has been very busy. Mr. Stevens,
They
thank you
have.
so much for what you guys do. I know that it's not something that it is totally volunteer work, and we appreciate it because we are in probably the most historic county in the
We
state of
certainly
Texas.
are.
So,
Well, I want to say that I just kind of push strings and all that. All the work's done by Dr. Schlaumbach and David Lancaster back there and several other members of the commission. I just kind of get things out of the way for them when I can.
yes, I know you asked me to attend one of your meetings, and I see all of the stuff that y'all are doing as a board and a committee. So thank you so much for what you do.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is discuss and possibly act upon the approval of pending Washington County Expo rental and regulations contracts. Mr. Williams, is there anything in these contracts that we need to be concerned about? Or are they just standard contracts? All right, Commissioners, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve pending Washington County Expo rental regulation contracts and allow the county judge to sign.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and possibly act upon a resolution adopting the guidelines and criteria for granting tax phase-in in Washington County, Texas. Ms. Rosales?
Absolutely. Honorable Judge, who's not here, and County Commissioners, the Joint Compliance Committee for Tax Phase-In convened on June 25th, 2024 to review potential modifications to the existing policy. All committee members were present. The policy was reviewed along with data collected, which surveyed similar policies for surrounding cities and counties. We offer this program to encourage growth, but we saw that income and minimum capital investment figures had not been updated for years. The last time total capital investment was modified was in 2011, and salary was 2016. Based on this data, the committee recommended certain changes. Each change was reviewed by Brenham City Council at their meeting on November 7th, 2024 as a work session, and again on December 19th, 2024 as a public hearing item. On that date, the following changes were approved. Number 1, charge a $300 application fee with 0 application fee for downtown businesses. 2, increase minimum salary amount from $36,000 to $44,000. 3, leave all references to downtown businesses in the policy. They had initially recommended removing any lesser guideline for downtown, but to increase the minimum capital investment amount to $75,000 from $50,000. Number 4, increase the minimum capital investment for all other businesses to $2,500,000. Previously, that was $300,000 for new businesses and $150,000 for existing. 5, add a definition of abatement to the policy. And 6, ensure that the chief appraiser for the county receives a copy of the abatement application. Draft copies of the Washington County policy, along with an accompanying resolution, was sent to county attorneys for review, and I was informed by Casey Murphy on January 17th that the document was reviewed and no legal issues were noted. In the past, the county policy has mirrored the city policy. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
So, Ms. Rosales, I want to start out by thanking the committee and everyone involved, the county attorney's office, for the review. I did have a few things that I want to go over with you. On page 1, where it says definition of the tax phase-in incentive, in the very beginning it says tax phase-in incentive or tax abatement as referred in this policy. As I read through the entire policy, I never saw the word tax abatement until the definitions page. And in the definitions page, we have tax abatement, but not tax phase-in incentive.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would think that, for my opinion, we should strike tax phase-in and just put in the definitions tax phase-in incentive in that position, because it's exactly what you have written here in the definition.
Sure.
And I think that since there's a little history, prior to this document being created, there was a document that was there before that was called tax abatement.
Oh.
At the city and the county at the time that it was created decided that the new term should be tax phase-in incentive.
Gotcha.
And when they did that, they changed this document to reflect that language. So for me, I would ask that we just strike
Make that
tax
motion.
abatement in the definitions. We'll put tax phase-in incentive. It's the same thing. The verbiage, the way you have it defined, sounds to be the same.
Okay.
The other thing I noted, and you and I had a brief conversation about this, the amount in section C on page 1, where it discusses the $44,000 a year or higher, it says including any benefits.
Right.
And what I understood us in budget to discuss at the time, this court discussed possibly excluding benefits. So in this language, we could just, in this sentence, we could just put not including benefits would be good for this court, because sometimes benefits can be very costly. And if we include the benefits in the $44,000, and the example that I gave you today, and those benefits cost the company anywhere from
30%
four to
or
10,
more.
Sure.
4 to 10,000,
Right.
it would reduce the amount for that individual getting an income.
Right.
Our reason for having an incentive is to turn the economic wheel. And in order to do so, we have to put more money in the pockets of the people that work here.
Right.
And that's what this document, in my opinion, is designed to do. So those two recommendations I would make to this court,
Okay.
along with, I understand on page 5, it says that this is new language
Yeah.
on number 8, where it talks about the $300 application fee. Was there always an application fee, or is this new?
It's brand
That's
new. There
new.
was never an application
new.
fee. And in the review of all of the other counties and cities that we did, almost all but one had an application fee.
Totally understand, and
Yeah.
I think it's acceptable.
Okay.
The question I have for you is this, is since we have an interlocal agreement with the city and the county on tax phase-in and how we fund it, because of course the county gives funds to the city for tax phase-in, is this application fee strictly for the office, or is that tax phase-in fee going to be distributed when it's a county function to the county and the city to the city, or is it just always going to go to your office?
I believe it's going to go to our office.
Okay. I just wanted clarity on that because
Yes.
I needed my treasurer to understand it.
Absolutely, makes sense.
The other thing I have is, on that same page,
Okay.
it talks about a economic impact study. And prior to this, it looks like the city provided that, but it looks like the county's gonna be providing, if we decide we want an economic impact study, the county would be requesting that, so therefore the county would be charged with the cost of that impact study. Is that correct? So I just want to understand.
Certainly.
Is that what we're voting on?
I will tell you that in my tenure at the city for 2 years now, no one's requested one at all. I think that in looking back, I've seen 1 or 2 in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So just for that. And then we need to also define exactly what we're talking
that
about
is.
as far as economic impact study. Depending on how involved and lengthy it is, it might be something that we can do in our office.
Okay.
And then there wouldn't be a fee.
Okay.
I would consider it that way. If it turns out that we need something more robust, then perhaps we can get a consultant to give us an estimate of what that would cost. But at this point, I think that what we need is able to be functioned in my office.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make,
Yeah.
look, most of these questions are for my clarity and this court's
Yes.
clarity, because we're going to be voting on this today.
Yes.
And if there was an impact fee, the way I read this, that the county requested, it would be under our authority, so we would need to pay for that. I just want to be clear that this
Yeah.
court understands that we will be responsible for that.
That's the
if
way
it.
I read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I believe, commissioners, believe it or not, I have, on the glossary, I want to make sure
Yes.
that when we vote on this, that we take the word abatement out and put tax phase-in incentive on that glossary.
Yeah, and Teresa, I want to kind of second what Commissioner Hannah said as it related to the 44K. 'Cause
Yes.
you remember it was
Mhm.
36.
Yes.
And I'm sure you know that I was the one that brought this to the committee prior to you. That was my one big stickler because I guess it was about 2.5 years ago, I realized that we were subsidizing low-income jobs. And, you know, just a quick Google will tell you, you know, on average, you're gonna pay 30% of benefits. So
Right.
if we deduct that from the 44K, we are subsidizing low-income jobs. We already have an issue here.
Right.
And so, you know, I don't know if we are allowed to approve this document with those, or if we need to send it back for revision, but, I just wanted to ask, what data was used to come up with this number? Because I've spent time talking, you know, to different business owners, and of course, I still have a family manufacturing business here, so I'm very well aware of, you know, what that will cost, at least a private, you know, manufacturing business.
Sure.
And that's a low-income job.
Well, and I want, before you answer that, because I want to piggyback on that, so you may answer it all at once. That's not even the average full-time salary for our county. So that number jumped out at me. That's more of a part-time salary. And if it includes benefits, it's definitely a part-time salary. And I'm with Candace and Kirk on this, that those are part-time jobs, and we've got more than enough part-time jobs.
Certainly.
So where did that number come from? And if you remove benefits from that, you're already down to close
34.
to, you know, way low salary.
Certainly. So when the committee reviewed it, the decision was made that it would be nice to be a number that didn't have to be changed often, that it would be something that is public. So at the time, the committee members referenced the FLSA and overtime rule that had just been published. And on that particular document, and this was their recommendation, is that we just follow that rule. That rule changed to an amount of, let me see here, $43,888 per year, effective July 1st.
But does that include benefits? Because when
I'm
you-
sure it does not.
That's what I'm
I'm sure it
saying.
does
It's a
not.
base salary.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's salary, not
Certainly.
including benefits.
However, that particular item also was going to be changing again on January 1st to $58,656. So when the council looked at it, they thought, well, we're already going from 36,000, we're going to be at 59,000 already. They thought it was
That's
too
besides the
big.
point.
They thought it was too big of a jump. And so that's where they landed at 44,000. So anyway, that's
I
where
have
the
to
number
disagree
came from.
With the council on that. I'm very sorry. Because regardless of what all that is, this
Mm-hmm.
is taxpayer money. And
Okay.
I just, yeah, you know, I've had some conversations, you know, that's kind of my biggest issue with this right now, is that I'm not sure, like, I think that this court needs to have more conversation on what that number needs to be.
Ms. Rosales, I don't know what this court's wishes are, but if this court decides to table this item, we can then have a court member visit with you, look at the recommendations that the committee has made and review them more. My apologies for not getting with you sooner and having that conversation, but
And my apologies too. I've been out with medical issues, so
Okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, I tried updating the judge and yourself throughout the whole process with the council, so that way it wouldn't be a surprise, but I should have followed up
Well, when you
perhaps
sent
by
the email on
phone.
the 10th, I apologize.
Okay.
I've been out for medical issues.
So,
Okay.
so the thing is that I think if this court decides to table it today, what I'd like to see is for there to be some discussion, and then we bring it back to court.
Okay.
It's already been reviewed by the county attorney's office.
yes.
So the changes that are being made, in this instance, the definition and the money are not legal issues.
Right,
And so
Okay.
we will not have to go back
To go
through the legal team.
Okay.
So it should operate rather quickly.
Okay.
Because they have to do a legal review on all the documents that we
Right.
do. And they've signed off on everything. They were here today. They know what the discussion is. If there are other items that come up that are of legal consequence, we will then also have to consult with the county attorney's office on
Certainly.
those.
I do
But
have,
and I will tell you, I
yeah.
don't know how this is going to go, if they do
Certainly.
table it or not, but I just want to lay out the parameters for what that could look like.
Okay, that sounds great. Can I just mention, as far as the term abatement, the reason that we decided to add that as part of the policy is that that's what the county appraiser uses, and she's got documents related to abatement. That's like a very common term in the
Yes.
industry.
Okay.
And so we just wanted there to be no confusion for
Gotcha.
anyone thinking, well, is this abatement or is it a tax phase-in? It's the same thing. We've always called it a phase-in, but
phase-in, yeah.
for the purposes of the county appraiser, her documentation is all about abatements.
Well, to be honest with you, when I took office, I thought, I referred to it as abatement. The phase-in was actually new to me. When I came here, I
Yes,
had to figure
yes.
out that they were the same.
The same thing.
The
So that's
phase-in
that.
language came from the fact that the taxes are actually phased in by a percentage. If you look at your exhibit
Yes,
on table 1,
yes.
that shows the percentages of taxes that will be phased in.
Exactly.
It's not a complete abatement of
Right.
zero.
Exactly.
I think that's what creates confusion for our constituency,
Mm-hmm.
because if you say the word abatement, most constituents believe that those taxes are abated for the total number of years regardless at
Gotcha.
zero.
Right.
And that is not the case.
Sure.
We are phasing those taxes in.
Right.
It created a great deal of confusion in the past.
Okay,
If we want to leave the word abatement,
Mm-hmm.
then let's just add the word tax phase-in incentive in your glossary.
I was just gonna say it's a definition.
It's
Okay,
it's an easy fix.
I think that's
Certainly.
a good
And
recommendation.
if we're all wanting to provide clarity, that
Yes.
should do it.
okay. One other item I wanted to mention that I made sure that the city council was aware of, it appeared as though in the past, well, since 2011, 2015, that this policy is required to be reviewed every 2 years, and changes, edits made if necessary, and it hadn't been done. It was kind of rubber stamped for quite a few years. And so I do want to mention that the committee understands, as part of the current policy, that there is a sunset provision. The policy is effective upon the date of the adoption and will remain in force for 2 years, at which time all reinvestment zones and tax phase-in incentive contacts created pursuant to its provision may be reviewed by the city or county. So, we just need to make sure that we're looking at those numbers every 2 years and
Yeah.
making sure that they make sense for our community.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
And I think this was, that was the main reason for us to revisit this, is because we hadn't done it in so long.
right.
And because we hadn't done it in so long, we hadn't
think
kept up
about-
with the inflation.
That's right.
Inflationary costs
Understood,
of,
yes.
Well, and
of
you
our
said
community.
it was 2011, $36,000, went a lot farther back then.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Commissioners, I will also note on page 12 that the table was removed for property improvements by a new business, and they were combined into one chart on page 12.
Correct. Because there isn't a total capital investment for new or for existing. It's all now.
Yes. Just so you are aware of what that document has. All right, Commissioners, I need a motion for this item. Thank you so much, Ms. Rosales.
Certainly.
I make a motion to table the resolution adopting the guidelines and criteria for granting tax phase-in in Washington County, Texas.
Second that motion.
Would you amend that to also say allow time for a court member to
To
give
allow time for, I revised that, to allow time for a court member to
reevaluate these
reevaluate
with Ms. Rosales? All right.
with Ms. Rosales.
Do you second that?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Rosales.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Item number 6, presentation of the Economic Development Quarterly Report. All right, Ms. Rosales, you're up
All right.
again.
I see that. Let's find my update. I think there it is. I did have it sent. Just because it's the first quarter, I just wanted to do a roundup of last year. So I'm just showing city building permits. We're at a total of 309 this year, with a valuation that was higher than last, although the number of building permits were lower. As far as AKAs, Washington County for 2024, we ended the year at 191. Last year was 249. And I think you recall what the AKA is. It's basically when you, it's the best indicator that I have for new businesses in Washington County, since we don't charge a business tax license of any kind. So rough idea of 191 businesses. As far as general updates, I wanted to let you know that Marketing Alliance, who is the consultant that we chose to help us with our targeted industries, we are starting to work on that. We've had one verbal meeting, and they're coming to meet with me, I believe it's in a week or two, to talk about meeting with stakeholders to get commentary from them. So that will be upcoming. The Tax Abatement Compliance Committee, as I said, we met last week, so we'll get you that report on February the 18th. There it is, January 23rd. The second meeting with Greater Brazos Partnership. Now, that's that MOU that we entered into at zero cost. I keep reminding everyone it costs zero. They have engaged a consultant to help our 5 counties prepare a regional stakeholder engagement report and a playbook. So I'm excited to see that and share it with you at some point in time. They're actually coming out to meet with us, the president of the organization that they chose, which, by the way, costs us nothing. And I've asked Commissioner Bullock and a few other stakeholders in the area to meet with them. So again, hopefully.
That's on Monday, right?
Yep, Monday. As far as engagement and communication, for me, that's so huge. I have been speaking in the community quite a bit. I try to contact service groups, and I think there's a few people here that might have seen me at some of those events. Ultimately, I kept track of the number in attendance. It was over 300 people. So we're going to keep doing that this year. I'd like to also solicit maybe some other members of the community to provide those updates. As far as electronic, website's gone crazy, over the roof. We're doing great with our engagement on our website. It's completely updated. If you haven't had a chance to see it, let me know. I'm happy to meet with you and just kind of go through it and walk you through the website. Social, that's where I need to work on next. So many people get their news and information from social media, so although we just incrementally, a couple of followers every month, it's not enough. So that's the next place that we'll be seeing some boom. And then I just gave you a few goals that I, came updated for myself just to stay on track. Of course, increase social media presence, the deliverable of that Marketing Alliance Targeted Industry Strategic Plan report. I want to start tracking business retention and expansion a little bit better. Although I do it, I don't have a report to offer.
Yeah.
So I want to do that. Increase economic development communication in Washington County with businesses and stakeholders. Increase business attraction opportunities utilizing that Greater Brazos partnership that we have. Hold another commercial brokers luncheon. The first one was fantastic. We had a lot of attendance. Create a lunch and learn with PACE. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Property Assess Clean Energy. It's a way to get 100% financing for a commercial business.
Yeah.
And
Because
for
we approved that program several years
It's
ago.
been a while.
But the last update I got, I think that I even asked about it, which is probably before you,
Mhm.
or maybe right after.
Mhm.
We didn't have any.
We've
in
had no
Washington County.
applications. I had a workshop, I think it was over a year ago now, and I had about 50 RSVPs and 2 people showed up. I don't think they understand the program.
Yeah.
It can be so life-changing for a company, so I really want to work on that a little bit more this year and try to get more utilization out of it, because if someone needs a new refrigeration system and not have to put $1 down in financing, I mean, that, again, over time, that's going to pay big dividends. So I'm going to be working on that. Begin testing AI in an economic development environment. Taking your
That's a
lead.
big one.
Taking your lead, Commissioner. And then work with SBDC more on entrepreneurship programs with increased visibility. I believe there's a lot of entrepreneurs in this county, and we need to find them and help them start and grow.
I love it. I'm really excited about the third goal, because
Yes.
that was a big push, I know, by the
mhm.
city and this court
Mhm.
to really focus on our existing businesses. And we've seen so many of those come through.
Yes.
I think many of them since you got here, because
Yeah.
that was a big push for you.
I talked to a
So
lot
I'm
of businesses.
super excited to hear
Brand
how
new
that's
one
going.
yesterday, wanting to move their business from Houston to Brenham. So yes, we have a lot of conversations going. I tell them there's a lot of electricity and activity going on all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great, but I would love to be able to report how I'm reaching out to the existing businesses, because I just don't have numbers to show you.
Right.
Well, Ms. Rosales, as the
Yes.
gray-haired commissioner, I would say that I really appreciate your efforts. You have done a great job in the role.
Yes.
So thank you for what you do.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Are
No
there any
questions
other
or-
questions of Ms. Rosales?
I don't have any.
We're doing our one-on-one here this afternoon to get to know each other better.
Great.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a presentation of the District Attorney's Annual Report for FY 2024. All right, Mr. Eastubb, how are you?
Not too bad this morning. I don't
Good.
have any colorful presentations. I think that's something that we will work on, because this data is, well, it's quite dry.
You want to make it pretty?
But it's important.
Yeah, it is good. Good data.
So you'll recall, I believe it was in budget workshops back in the summer, I presented some data going forward for what we were doing, what we were seeing in '24 compared to '23. The court requested that we follow up on that. This has never really been presented in terms of what we do across a given year. So there was no template, no predicate, so we just gave you the raw data. The reports that were provided are from the Office of Court Administration. They are compiled based almost exclusively on data presented from the district courts through the clerks. There is a lot of really dry, dense info in here, and I'll be happy to talk about any of it that you want to hear about. The focus really is on page 2 of each report, and there's no good way to go back and forth between those. The final column on the right is the total cases. And I will point to the line regarding indictments which is how we add cases to the docket. In '23, we indicted 330 cases, and in '24, we indicted 494, which is a substantial increase. It's just a shade under 50%. The other side of that is our case dispositions went up an appropriate amount too, so we're not creating ourselves a backlog or anything to that effect. We're still moving cases. In fact, we're being a little more efficient as each year goes by. Those numbers are on the last page of each report. In 2024, 37% of our cases were disposed of in less than 90 days. That was up from 30% in '23. The other side of that is 29% of our cases that were disposed of in '24 were over a year old. This is down from 35 in the previous year. Those are just kind of the easiest way for us to look and say we are being more efficient. And we've had to do that. As we talked about, cases are on the increase, and there's been no real increase in terms of court time or court space for reasons that have been discussed for years. In practice for us, it looks like more people being given probation on what look like more serious crimes. It looks like more people put on our pretrial diversion program, which has been a roaring success and isn't really trackable by these metrics. The other side of that is generally you're probably seeing lower plea bargains. When we increase our cases by 50%, we got to do something. And so that's part of the give and take of how we look at cases. One confounding variable that you really can't see here is that we've started changing the way we draft our indictments to include more counts rather than more indictments. What that does to the reporting is we have one indictment, so we get that number up by one. But there are going to be instances where that one indictment generates 2 dispositions and 2 dismissals, or pick your division there. But it does create some problems in the reports. I don't know that it necessarily makes a big difference, but it just factors into the idea that we're busy, and we're busier than we have been. I know the sheriff is here, and I don't want to speak for him, but I imagine with the change in administration, we'll see more cases from that agency. The local highway patrol office has been restructured. I imagine we'll see more cases from that agency. Through most of '23 and a large portion of '24, Brenham PD, which is our largest agency, was woefully understaffed. As that gets rectified, we'll see more cases from them. And there is nothing that says we will get less cases from anybody. Noteworthy items in that regard, our child sex cases went up from '23 to '24, 42%. Yes, that's less than the total cases, but those are the cases we have to try because nobody wants to plead to those. So when you see in the papers that one more time the DA's office has tried a sex offender, that's why. Realistically, I could try nothing but those cases for the rest of the year, which necessarily puts the rest of the cases behind them.
I have nothing nice to say about that, so I'm just not going to say anything.
That's good.
Same.
That there is nothing nice to say about that. The other category that we saw the most increase was domestic violence. Domestic violence is up 56% year over year, and I don't have an explanation for that. Sometimes we can look at certain environmental factors and say, oh, this may have led to that. I don't have one, other than to say the investigations in these cases are getting better, so there are more of them. What we have done to try and stem the tide is bring in appropriate personnel to kind of fill those points that cause the greatest contention. The court has always joined our office in kind of a forward-looking. I don't think we've ever asked for personnel that we didn't get, and it is paying off dividends right now. We have a two-person discovery division, which most offices our size are lucky to have one. When we deal with defense attorneys from out of town, special prosecutions, or especially dealing with the Regional Public Defender's Office on the Clennard Parker case, every single one of them commends our discovery department because we're able to get them what they need immediately. When that works faster, cases move faster, and I can stand here and say we're moving more cases in less than 90 days.
Just a note on that, Mr. Eastep, I will tell you that a lot of that comes from the data that was provided to us as a court. It makes it easier for us to do things in budget when we have the data you
Absolutely.
provide. Your office and Mrs. Rankin's office prior to you were good at giving us that information, and we appreciate that. It takes a team effort, and look, we understand that we need to give you those resources when they are necessary.
And so that segues into what then? So we have been working with the district court, with the district clerk, to find small bets, small steps we can do to make moving cases through the district court system more efficient and more effective. At some point, though, we are going to run into a spot where we have to make a big bet. We have all talked about that at length. In that
Mr.
regard,
Eastep, the Commissioners Court is working on a strategic plan. That strategic plan will include your office.
Outstanding.
And so we are looking to make those improvements based upon the data presented to us. Your
Great.
data here will help in that effort.
And so I'm happy to field questions about some of these numbers. Like I said, they're pretty dry, pretty dense. Outside that, I would encourage any member of the court to stop by the office. Commissioner Hanth was there a couple of weeks ago and got the grand tour
Yes, I
right
did.
in the middle of the transition period.
I
So
sure did.
stop by. You can see what we do, ask questions about how we do things. I know the DA's office can be kind of scary because, well, we send people to prison and nobody wants that.
It's not as scary as the jail. No offense, but the door closes
Good.
behind you. It's a little different than your door. Just saying.
Good. We'll try and keep it that way. But again, thanks for hearing
No
the data
offense.
and looking through it, and let me know if there's
Thank you
any
for the
questions.
presentation. I think this is
Yeah.
important for the constituency to see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and possibly act upon the approval of an invitation for bids for the EMS Station 2 parking lot project. Director Doremus, Commissioners, you are all aware of this, well, Mrs. Korn, you may not. This project started prior to you being here, but this project is part of the property acquisition that TxDOT had with the EMS station. The funding for this project will come from those dollars. The state paid the county $349,000 for the property that's in front of the EMS for that acquisition, and this parking lot was suggested during that process to be paved in the back so that people could park in the back of the building.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry I stole
No,
your
you
thunder,
stole it all.
Director
Yeah,
Doremus.
that's really it. So it solves a couple problems. The parking, obviously. There's also a drainage issue between the concrete and the gravel that Road and Bridge has solved a couple times for us, where there's a culvert there that's been replaced twice. Wesley came out, spec'd that area for us, and he's gonna create kind of a slough that we can do away with the drainage problem, essentially. So it solves a couple problems for us. We do expect it to exceed the $50,000 threshold for sealed bids, so we're suggesting to open bids for advertising today and awarding Thursday, February 13th.
Commissioners, please include those dates in your motion. Do I have a motion?
I'm gonna have to go at 10, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
10 a.m.
on Thursday.
I make a motion to approve the invitation for bids on EMS Station 2 parking lot project. Hold on, now I gotta get back to the, sorry. On due, right? Due February 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Date of opening, February 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Correct.
And date of award to be determined.
I'll
need a s-
second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Director Grimes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act upon declaring the following assets belonging to Constable 2 Office as salvage county property pursuant to the local government code 263.151 And I'm gonna read this list of items. 2 partial, 1 COP in-car video systems, 1 partial in-car radar, and 1 Motorola HT1250 handheld radio with multiple chargers. These items are no longer in working condition. Is there anyone from the constable's office here to present this, or?
No, I talked to Mr. Clem and told him that.
Would you step up to the microphone, Ms. Hollis?
So, Mr. Clem reached out to me with this, equipment that needs to be disposed of, and I told him, it needed to be on the agenda, and so it's just essentially needs to be trashed. There is no working.
None of it
equipment.
works.
No.
Commissioners, as you know, anything with an asset number, Ms. Hollis has definitely got honed in on, and if you have an item in county government, it either needs to be sold or disposed of through her office. So, Commissioners, everything looks like it has been followed, the policies that Ms. Hollis is aware of. So,
Yeah.
is anyone here willing to make a motion to this effect?
Make a motion declaring the following assets belonging to Constable 2 Office as salvage county property pursuant to the local government code 263.151, 2 partial ICOP in-car video systems, 1 partial in-car radar, and 1 Motorola HT1250 handheld radio with multiple chargers. These items are no longer in working condition.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hollis.
Thank you.
Item number 10. Commissioners, I'm going to preface this with, this is something that definitely needs to happen. Please be aware that this item is something that we've discussed for multiple budgets. Discuss and possibly act upon the approval of a proposal for the life-saving repairs to the courthouse. Mr. Branham, I don't know if you want to discuss this, but Commissioners, you have in your packet a bid for this. The Texas Historical Commission has a grant for this process. The county has applied for this grant. In doing so, we've been, this courthouse, the architects were assigned many years ago, called, an architectural firm was voted on in this court for Architexas. Architexas has done the work for designing this project. They, Architexas, this company, Life Safety, the Phoenix One Restoration, Mr. Branham, the county judge, and myself met with these folks outside the building. We also met with the Texas Historical Commission because this courthouse is considered a historical property. And so everything that we do has to go through the Texas Historical Commission. This portion of this repair is part of a greater project in which they will redo all of the windows and all of the outside exterior. What this project will be focusing on, is my understanding that there are several of the slates of granite that are in ill repair in terms of their ability to be held onto the building, which is a life safety situation if one of them were to fall. We've had one fall in the front. Don't know if anybody knows that, but now you do. And so the Commissioners Court will need to secure the rest of those. This agreement or contract that we're going to go into with Phoenix One Restoration is the first stage of that, which will be removing any of those loose granite pieces. Once those are removed, then we'll go into the full restoration, and the Historical Commission has been made aware of all of it. So I don't know if there are any other questions about that, or I think most of us are aware of what's happened.
They just want to, this all kind of came about because and this is more for Commissioner Korn, because the court moved forward with the courthouse landscape project, and obviously these things had to be addressed prior to proceeding with that project. So that's kind of how this came about. We met with the Texas Historical Commission, and they were the ones that made this recommendation.
So this restoration for the exterior is part of a grant that will cover the entire exterior?
Yes.
And then what about the interior? Is
The
there
interior
any?
is not included. There's, there was a lot of discussion about the interior. The interior has been changed throughout the years, and there's a lot more to restoring the interior rather than just the exterior. 2 years ago, the court had applied for this grant to have just the outside done, and we missed the mark by one. So we should be able to, with the current condition, be more successful.
No, this one's the emergency grant for.
Yes.
Yes.
It is
the
an
emergency
emergency
grant.
Because of the
Because,
safety issues?
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
And the
So-
reason it's classified as an emergency grant is because it is,
Oh my. That's our fancy phone system that I don't know how to turn off.
so,
How do I turn it off?
Click the side of your phone.
turn your phone off.
It's not the phone part.
So the grant was applied for. The reason this is classified as emergency grant is because these dollars are left over from other projects that were not completed within the
okay.
cycle. The legislature's in session now, and the legislature will approve the next round of funding for historical courthouses.
Okay.
There is funding there for this project, and that's why we applied for the emergency grant.
Okay. Okay.
Mr.
Ms. Charlie?
This is panels only, correct, not exterior, just.
It's
panels only.
it's everything.
It's
The
everything.
windows, the panels.
Is this
This is just the panels.
this just says
Just,
panels.
this is taking the panels. This first step is the panels, but the entire grant will be all of it. So if you go to the next page, Carly, it will show her the entire bid. Go all the way. This
There you go.
is the entire. The total cost will be $3.5 million for the entire exterior of the courthouse. The county is 1/3 of that, 30%. We will have to pay.
Thank you. Just starting to understand.
That, I understand. But anytime you have a question, you know you can ask it, Ms. Sharp. Any other questions? Commissioners, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the proposal for the life safety repairs to the courthouse.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and possibly act upon the Sheriff's Office monthly report. Sheriff? Or is it Mr. Millard?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Sheriff.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to apologize in advance. I'm coming off of a sinus infection,
Oh.
and I still got a little scratchiness in my throat. So for the raspiness, I want to apologize for that.
We would have never noticed, Sheriff, would have never noticed.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our December 2024 monthly report and hit the highlights of our 2024 annual report.
Okay.
And so if you want to look at page 1, we can pull that up. Some of the highlights on there for December 24, our NIBRS report. NIBRS is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. That data then goes into the UCR, Uniform Crime Report, which gives us our crime stats. Okay, and they categorize offenses in there as Group A and Group B offenses. Group A offenses are the more serious offenses. Group B offenses are the less serious offenses. And for our Group A offenses in December, we had a 71% clearance rate of 17 offenses, which resulted in 5 arrests. And our Group B offenses had a 83% clearance rate of 29 offenses, followed up by 20 arrests. And then that gave us an overall clearance rate of 78% for December of 2024. Now you see our juvenile offenses, those are reported separately, but we had a 100% clearance rate on our juvenile offenses. So if we can go to page 2. The top is our jail division. I want to take this opportunity to introduce to you our new jail administrator, Clifton Ballard. If you would, please stand up. And I'm excited to have him on board. We brought him on January the 1st, extended him a job offer for that. Clifton has spent his entire career with the Washington County Sheriff's Office. He worked his way up from correctional officer to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant, and then now he is the chief deputy and jail administrator. Excited to have him on board. He is a graduate of Brenham High School, and he's doing a really good job. I'm looking forward to the leadership that he provides to our jail division. All right, thank you, sir.
Commissioners, I did not get to meet Mr. Millard early on, but I got to meet him when we moved some records, and I appreciated all of the help and assistance he provided. I've also had to visit with him quite a bit about the jail kitchen. I will say so far, Mr. Ballard has impressed me. So keep up the good work. But just remember, if you start out on the top, it's easy to fall down. So keep up the good work.
Well, Chief Ballard, we're super excited to have you.
Just on notice.
You know, we met each other years ago, and you've been a wonderful asset in our county jail. So I'm very excited to see you kind of taking over the helm, and we're excited to have you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited to have him on my executive leadership team.
Absolutely.
All right, now, regarding our jail division, of course, we look at what our average daily population is, right? And so in November, we had 120, and I'm sorry, it's down from 120 in November to 111 in December. Okay, we'll go over here in just a little bit, kind of what those look like over the months throughout this past year. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that our jail division at full staffing is 41 full-time employees and 2 part-time positions. And we currently have 10 vacancies. And so I want to break that down for you just so you'll know where those vacancies currently exist. With our chief deputy, that's 1 full-time position there. And then if we go down in our corrections side, we have 23 full-time employees, and we're currently holding 7 vacancies there. What that looks like is for our lieutenants, we have a total of 3 positions. We have 3 lieutenants, but currently have 1 vacancy. And so that position is currently open for competitive applications. And I think we have 5 that have put in for that position. So I'm looking forward to that process working its way through there. With our jail sergeants, we have 4 positions that are currently carrying 1 vacancy. And so that is currently open for competitive too, and we have several internal applications for that position as well. For our correctional officers, we have a total of 16 positions and currently have 5 vacancies. And so we have received several applications, and we're going through that review process to see if any of those candidates we can onboard and get them working. Now, on our medical staff, we have 6 full-time employees with 0 vacancies. With our transport deputies, we have 6 full-time employees, 2 vacancies right now. And we also have 1 part-time employee. And we have some applications that we have received that we're currently going through. I have a committee in place that reviews those applications. And then we go from there through that hiring process. And so with those transport deputies, we have 1 sergeant and 5 FTEs for the deputies, which 2 of those are vacant right now. With our court bailiffs, we have 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time employee. And on our maintenance crew, we have 3 full-time employees and currently have 1 vacancy. But I believe that we are making a job offer. Have we made the job offer?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have made the job offer. It's probably waiting my signature. And so we'll get that person up and running. Okay. And then the jail has an administrative assistant. That's 1 full-time employee. So total of 41, 10 vacancies. That's kind of how it's broken down right now. So we're in the process of staffing.
What is the number of inmates per jailers that has to be? Like the number of jailers that have to be per inmate?
Per inmate?
1 every 48.
1 for every 48.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'm excited to have Chief Ballard on board. We're currently working on some recruiting strategies so we can get out in the community and make a career in corrections, something that is attractive to a young person who is looking to get into a criminal justice field. I'd also like to invite any members of the court, if you want to take a tour of the jail to see how those operations look and what these
I've been there.
Yeah. It's a different world inside the jail.
It is.
Correctional officers, they do an outstanding job of maintaining order.
God bless them.
And taking care of our inmates there.
Yes.
And the amount of responsibility and liability exposure, I just want to say, is significant.
It is.
So I think this court appreciates and understands what y'all are dealing with in that environment. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and that selection
It's not an easy
process for
job.
those employees is pretty intense. You can't just put anybody in that position.
Right.
Okay, and so if we go down to our law enforcement division, just want to point out that at full staffing on the law enforcement division, we have 33 full-time employees, 3 reserve, those are non-paid deputies, and 8 volunteer citizen on patrol personnel. We currently have 1 vacancy in patrol, but as soon as I get back to the office, I will be signing paperwork, and I'm pleased to report that we will be full staff on patrol.
That's incredible news.
So we're really pleased with that.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Well, I just want to say, Highway 105, I have seen more sheriff's deputies in the past month, and it makes my heart so happy. And my neighbors have been so happy to see you guys out there, so thank you for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Not
thank
as
you.
fast as
Thank you.
Trump.
The goal of any
Fast.
traffic enforcement program is to save lives.
Right.
Reduce crashes. That's why we're out there.
And we have
I think
been
we're
very
gonna see a
happy to
lot of
see you,
changes
so
over
thank
there.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I want to look at some of the comparative categories in the activity report. Most of these have remained relatively the same. Just want to point out that our false alarms increased from 24 to 38. I know that takes a whole lot of time on the deputies to go out to these calls. Adult arrests went down from 61 to 46. Our loose livestock calls increased from 55 to 87. And our overall traffic enforcement also increased. Now there's on there, you'll see the City of Burton calls. You'll see that they increased from 60 to 69. Well, I was wondering, what does that 69 actually represent? Okay? And so I had my staff kind of break that down, and I want to just go over what those calls look like for the City of Burton that's contained in this report.
Right.
We had 29 close patrol requests, 2 suspicious persons, 1 suspicious vehicle, 1 vandalism, 11 traffic stops, 2 escorts, 5 special assignments, 2 crashes, 1 reckless driving, 1 agency assist, 2 license plate checks, 2 foot patrols, 1 welfare concern, 1 mental health, and 9 business checks. And so moving forward with this report, we're going to expand that so you get a better understanding of what our
What the
deputies
calls
are
yeah.
doing inside the City of Burton. Okay?
I think that would be helpful not only for us, but for the city of
For
Burton.
the city.
Absolutely.
And I did have this conversation with Mayor Buck. And I said, I will provide this to you so that you can see what kind of activity is an actual call for service versus officer initiated.
Right.
Okay?
And that will be helpful for their council. I'm most
Absolutely.
Definitely. So,
Absolutely.
so Sheriff, let's talk about this, these false alarms.
Yes, sir.
You and I had a conversation about this contract for false alarms.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you and and I believe it is my opinion that we should end this contract. Its sunset date is May of 2025. Okay, so that's this year. And you and I had a conversation where I was hoping that you would bring something to the court. We have, in my opinion, I believe 60 days according to the contract to terminate that contract, but we have to do it in writing.
Yes.
That will need to come through this commissioner's court or either through your office. I do not know, but whatever it takes, I would be pleased to know if we were going to do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did have this conversation, and I'm in support of any of that contract and coming up with something that's
More effective.
a little more palatable
Well,
to
and
our
It's
constituents.
been very clear since it was initiated that it has not done anything to deter
Exactly.
the false alarms.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
an
Yeah, the
official-
data doesn't support it.
Exactly.
Doesn't work.
So,
Exactly.
If it's broke, fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you,
exactly.
Sheriff.
Yeah, we have that opportunity moving forward.
great.
And when you're ready, we're ready,
Yes.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
just so you know.
Okay. Thank you. And if we move down to page 3, this is a graph that gives a monthly comparison of Group A and B crimes that are reported. Some of the things I just want to point out there, in June of 2024, had the highest Group A crimes at 36. In August of 2024, had the highest Group B crimes at 78. And then we move down to page 4. This breaks down burglaries and thefts by the month. I want to point out a few things on here. In January, February, March, July, September, October, and December, we had 0 burglaries reported. And our highest number of burglaries was in June. And for thefts, we had 0 reported in October and December, with the highest number reported also in June at 15. And that's not unusual. That we expect that's a trend historically during the summertime months.
Yeah.
People are more active.
More
and-
mischievous.
And more
Because they
mischievous.
think
Right.
everybody's, vacationing.
Yep. Yep. And so if we move down to page 5, this shows our traffic enforcement activity. And if you see, in December had the highest month for traffic warnings at 306. And October had the highest for citations at 238. And October was also the highest month for crashes at 69.
Wow.
And page 6
More tickets, more
shows our
crashes.
criminal arrests by month for Group A and B offenses. Group A had the highest arrests in July at 16, and Group B had the highest arrests in August at 66. And again, that's also expected. Look at historical trends, summertime months. And then page 7 shows arrests by agency, or people who are booked into our jail. What I want to point out is we break this down by Brenham PD, and we break it down by Washington County Sheriff's Office. That's a different data set. And then our other data set is for our other law enforcement agencies with the state, Texas DPS, Texas Parks and Wildlife, TABC, also with Blinn PD and the Constable's Office are all grouped in that other category. And so what we see in that is that the highest month for Brenham PD was February at 96, and the highest month for the Sheriff's Office was August at 72. And then if you look at other agencies, January had 10. Now if we go to page 8 and we look at our average daily population graph. So basically what we want to look at here is that the average for the year was 113.3 inmates per day in our county jail. I think this morning we had 84. Yeah, we had 84 in our jail this morning. And that's due to some TDC transfers and ICE detainers. ICE has come and gotten some.
Is
And
that
so-
the lowest it's
Hallelujah.
been? That's the lowest number I've heard, but that's just today. That's
Yes,
not
that's
the
just today.
average.
Right.
Right, okay. I
Yep.
gotcha.
Let's hope that's a trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the
All right.
average hadn't been that low for what, 2 years?
Yeah, for a while.
Over 2 years?
Yeah.
Maybe because the ICE detects.
All right. And then on page 9 shows our jail bookings by gender each month. And the highest month for males was in February. The lowest was December. And for females, the highest month was in February, lowest in October. What I want to point out on the females is that we had 3 that were booked in the jail who were pregnant. And that requires special handling by our medical
And that
staff and
costs a lot
by
more
our
for the
correctional
taxpayer.
officers. Yeah,
Aye, aye, aye.
absolutely.
Cost per-
All right.
Commit a
It's a
crime.
requirement.
Yeah. So page 10 shows the call response to City of Burton. We've already covered that. And page 11 gives an average yearly population of inmates booked into our county jail. And since 2016, we are averaging 1,733 inmates booked into our jail per year. And so that's a lot of people in and out.
So, one of the things because obviously the court is going to be pursuing this strategic plan, and one of the things that comes up, because I know, from December of, 23 to January of 24, our ADP just, I think it went from like 80, low 80s to, and then all of a sudden to 94, and then we've hit,
Right.
100 plus since. And, knowing that we have, 175 beds, but I know you can't use 175 beds because the categorization requirements. So what is that looking like? Because obviously, we're in the process of doing the jail kitchen expansion. And so one of the conversations that this court is having, obviously, is at what point are we going to have to potentially expand the jail? Because clearly the trend is going up, and then with the categorization piece, because I think that's a big a big misunderstanding. They're like, oh, we have 175 beds. We'll never get there. When you're looking at the ADP, but that goes without saying. You can't house certain inmates with others and whatnot. So where are we in that regard?
The Texas Commission on Jail Standards offers a service that what they will do an analysis on future needs of county jails. And all that would take is a request to that agency. They'll come in, they will do their surveys and make recommendations on what they're seeing future needs will be for a jail. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, so some highlights on our yearly report. So on page 1 there, what this does is it's comparing 2024 to 2023. So on our Group A offenses, things that I want to point out there is that our assaults increased by 205%. And I think Derek Eastep has alluded to that as well. They're seeing more and more cases coming in. And I don't think that's just my agency or our sheriff's office. It's also Brenham PD is seeing an increase in that as well. For whatever reason, that's one of those things that we have to deal with. And burglaries, I want to point this out, it decreased by 33%. Motor vehicle theft increased by 80%. Arson increased by 100%. But overall, Group A offenses increased 68% from 2023 to 2024. And if we look at our Group B offenses, just want to point out that criminal mischief, vandalism decreased by 39%. Our weapons violations also decreased by 74%. Our pornography-related offenses decreased by 100%. However, our alcohol and intoxication-related offenses increased by 62%. And all other offenses, that's that catch-all, increased by 83%. So that gave us a 22% increase looking at 2023 to 2024. And you combine those with Group A and Group B, we saw an overall increase of 34%. And so if you look at our calls for services went down from 2023 to 2024, but our actual offenses increased by 34%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so if we look at page 2 for our annual NIBRS report, our Group A offenses, we had 293 actual offenses. 212 of those were cleared with 84 arrests, which gave us an overall clearance rate of 72%. Group B offenses, we had 607 actual offenses. 454 of those were cleared with 417 arrests, which gave us a 75% clearance rate. You combine those, we had 900 actual offenses, 666 of those were cleared with 501 arrests, which gave us a 74% clearance rate. And our juvenile offenses had a 75% clearance rate.
So is there a benchmark for those percentages?
Yes and no. The overall goal is 66% clearance rate.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're above that.
Yeah.
The deputies and the investigators are doing great work and identifying what is an offense and what is not an offense. You know, in law enforcement, we do spend a lot of time following up on things that are not offenses. Which takes up a lot of our time.
Right.
You know, like the false alarms. We call them cat up a tree reports,
Or the,
right?
like the livestock calls. that
Yeah,
are up.
livestock
Yeah.
calls. Yeah, exactly. Business checks, things of that nature. And so if we go to page 3, the 2024 annual activity report, this is kind of a combination of everything. I just want to point out that this showcases the great work being done by our correctional officers and by our law enforcement officers with the Washington County Sheriff's Office every day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'll entertain any questions y'all might have.
Sheriff, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for the very thorough report and the explanation that you provided today. Commissioners, on that last page, I want you to note that there are donations of $1,950.
And 500 on the December.
Yes, so we'll need to have a motion for this report. Thanks again, Sheriff.
I make a motion to approve the sheriff's, do I just say?
Washington County Sheriff's Office monthly
It's
and
not-
annual report.
Monthly and annual report.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. Sheriff, thank you very much once again for that report. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, I'm going to, we have the presentation of the following monthly reports. I'm going to go to B and give the district clerk an opportunity to go in advance. She has another appointment to make. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
Despite the holidays, retirements, Tammy's funeral, and my swearing in, the district clerk's office had a really busy month last month. A couple accomplishments I wanted to highlight were we posted an open job rec for a position we have open, and currently interviewing, wrapping that up today. So we had some good candidates, so I'm excited to extend an offer this week. We reconstituted the jury wheel for 2025, and we also mailed out the January grand jury summons, which is for 6 months. The next chart is just a overview of our team. You'll see I have 4 clerks and then 1 open position. And then if you go to the next one, that is our fee collections. For the month of December, we collected just over $19K, which is the average for the year. It is up about 20% from last December, what we collected. I also wanted to mention that the majority of our collections were through cash and checks, and I wanted to mention that because the constables do a great job coming by every day to pick up our bank bags and make those deposits. And this does not include any of the state fees that are within our fees that we collect.
Wow.
The next chart is our overall case activity. You'll see my department handles all felonies, large civil cases, all family, juvenile. And our current caseload is just over 1,000 cases. And we have 258 inactive cases, bringing our total caseload to 1,373. For the month, we did have a decrease in 90 cases. Which is you can see over the year, we have a slight uptick each month, but December decreased, which I'll.
And you're referencing the chart on the far bottom right,
Yes.
correct? And that
Yeah.
that is phenomenal, that
Yeah.
chart.
And I'll get into that decrease here in a couple of charts. The next one is just a breakout of our criminal docket, which is felony cases. We had 24 indictments handed down in December, which is less than the 35 from November. And I believe prior to that, they're usually in the high 40s, low 50s. But I think Mr. Estep explained that they're decreasing the indictments and increasing the counts in those. We also had 17 cases committed to prison or jail and 9 cases given probation. We had 18 cases with a court-appointed attorney. And we also issued 12 warrants. Some further criminal analysis, case analysis on the next page. You'll see that lists out the kind of felonies that come in. The biggest one is drug possession, and the other one is other felonies, and that's kind of grouped together. That could be fraud, injury to a child, elderly, or evading arrest. The breakdown of the indictments, you'll see it's primarily drug possession and also the other felonies. And then for convictions, it's flip-flopped, but you can see drug possession is one of the primary drivers on that one. And then on the next page, our civil docket. That's primarily made up of tax cases, and all other civil there is also a big driver, and that could be land and property disputes as well as bank defaults. And if you look at the bottom, the chart on the bottom left, you can see an uptick each month. But the large uptick in the third quarter, that was driven by a new law firm assigned to the Brenham ISD. Tax cases. And the new cases for the month were primarily related to taxes and motor vehicle accidents. And then on my next chart, the family docket, you can see the list of the types of cases we have there. The biggest one in our office is the divorces, and they're split between no children and children. And then at the top row, you can see it says Title 4D, and that's related to the Attorney General. So people can go through the Attorney General for paternity, custody, and child support without coming directly to us. So that's a large driver, but we assist them with their cases. And then you'll see in the bottom left, that chart is an uptick as well, but a significant drop in December. And that's because of our dismissal dockets. We typically have two a year, and the one in June didn't occur, so they were all lumped in December.
So is that why we saw such a big increase?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
That makes sense.
And then the next page is our ages of cases disposed. When I looked at this last month, we were primarily less than 3 months of disposing a case. This one is over 1 year, and part of that is that dismissal docket. But then other things that could drive that are in the criminal docket, which could be resets, jury trials. They could take 2 years. And then motions to revoke. So if someone's on probation and they violate their probation, they have to come before the judge, their case is reopened. And then the look ahead for the year, there's 2 community events I'd like to participate in. May, there's Jury Appreciation Week, and then in November, there is National Adoption Day. And then also, I wanted to highlight passports. I spoke to the state last month, and they weren't taking any new facilities in, and they said check back in February, so I have that on my list to.
So your office is wanting to reinstate?
Yes, yeah.
I hope you're successful with that.
Thank you. They went away during COVID, so I'd like
Yes.
to bring that in, because we do get calls and walk-ins every day.
I'm one of them.
Passports, yeah.
I want my passport. I want to do it
I
in
wanna be
Washington
able to
County.
do it.
I know
You
I
can be
need-
our first customer.
need to.
I
Worry
have to
about that.
renew mine and I haven't.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Well, I'd like to bring that back as soon as possible.
Well, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate this very thorough report.
Thank you.
I mean, I know Commissioner Hanneth mentioned it earlier, but, you know, it's so critical to educate the court, and it makes our life a lot, and y'all's, I feel like, a lot easier during budget because we have more
Yes.
understanding. So I just want to applaud you for this presentation you put together. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So.
Ms.
Appreciate it.
Boycius, I would echo that, but I'd also say that I showed your report to another county employee, and they said, send me a copy of that because they like the way you have the layout. So
Was
definitely,
Mr.
I don't know if
Easton-
your first
his
life was
black and white?
marketing or what, but you did a good job on this report.
Thank you, appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, County Clerk's report. Ms. Rothermel, we're going to bounce back to you.
Yes, all right, go to those charts, and we ended the year in December collecting about 60,000, and that was more than the previous month, but it's been not a good year for collecting at all. So everything has been a little bit down across the board, and you can see for the funds taken in month of December, that is, less than it's been in quite a number of years for December. Official public records, we had 545 that we filed. For the month of December, it was about as much as last year, but less than 22 and 2021. We had 2 plats filed for the month. We ended the year with about 40 plats filed, which was significantly less than the previous year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Criminal cases, we took in 55 and they closed 64. That is more filed than last year, but a little less than 2022. You saw the district attorney's report. Those numbers come from numbers of the district clerk reports every month. We have to report to OCA by the 10th of every month, and we report those for the county court. those are numbers that come from the clerk's offices. And we have those for what goes through our court as well, the different types of cases, civil and criminal. There's a whole bunch of different categories with that. That might be interesting to
dig into, because I know we've talked
Yeah.
about these civil cases, because I was gonna ask you if that has affected the fees. Essentially, like if you're doing a lot more of that, because I know you said our fees are very minimal, but we do so much more work in civil.
There's so much more that is filed now into civil and probate and guardianship cases than ever. There's much more contested things that are going on across the board. I would note that we are 94% in compliance on our sieges, which is great. We're going to keep that above 90%, and that's a collaboration between our office and the county attorney's office. And also, the state also keeps track of the average number of days that it takes our court system between the two offices to input the data, and we are currently about 6 days on completion. There are some counties that they were supposed to be within 30 days by the end of December, and they barely made it within 30 days. So we are kind of at the top of the barrel there and being able to get everything closed.
That's
And,
great. Thank y'all for
the county
your work on
attorney's
that.
office, they have to go into sieges if a case is not going forward and for whatever reason, and they have to, key in that data too. So that all comes into play too. So they're doing a good job on that.
Well, we appreciate the cooperation
With
and
that,
coordination
yeah.
between the departments.
Very much so, yeah. For civil cases, we had 7 filed for the month and we had 65 dismissed. Twice a year, Judge Berg works with us to have a dismissal docket. So any civil case that doesn't have anything filed into it, any action within 6 months, gets a letter saying either you retain this or it gets dropped, to keep things moving. So they're not just filing cases and they're sitting there forever. So we did have a very large dismissal docket in December. So we had 65 cases dismissed. So he keeps on top of that with regard to keeping that cleaned up. Moving on to guardianship cases, we did not have any filed for the month of December. We had 37 births recorded in the month of December in Washington County. That was a little bit more than 2023, but it was less than 2023, but more than those previous years. You can see that was a jump there. Deaths recorded, there were 30 deaths recorded in the county. And that was just about the same as last year, a little bit less than 2022. And of course, 2021 was when we were still experiencing COVID, an issue there. 10 marriage licenses sold in December, and that has been quite a bit down. So we're seeing less couples buying marriage licenses. We had 6 online vital statistics requests. We had 35 fraud alert registrations, which is up.
Wow.
So that's my report. If y'all have any questions.
Thank you, as always.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Rothermel.
Thank you.
The Justice of the Peace reports. Commissioners, you have those in your packet. Are there any questions about the Justice of the Peace reports?
None here.
The Auditor's report. Ms. Hollis, back to the microphone.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
So this is a review of the 2024 year. In revenue, the general fund collected 114% of the anticipated revenue. The engineering and development collected 114, almost 115%. And both of these come from taxes collected and interest earnings affect those numbers. So overall, total collected revenues was up 112.62%. The expenses, the general fund expended 105% of the budget, EDS expended 104%. Keep in mind, some of that was funding from reserve, so that skews it a little bit. We don't take it from reserve right when it happens at the end of the year, so some of that is explainable in that way. Overall, 101.85% expended more than budgeted. I think that's great work for the departments in their budgeting, and also the court going and looking at the expenses and requests from all the departments. So kudos to them. Total sales tax collected for December is $375,250, which is more, about 3%. No, sorry, I got off. It is more than December of '23 at $351,998. So 23,000 higher than last year. And in the total for 2024 is 3% lower than 2023. And you can kind of tell by the charts that are right after this page, 2 pages down, Carly. They follow a similar 23 and 24. July, August time, there was a increase in 23 for some reason, but other than that, it's trending about even with the year before.
That's something to note in budget.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we made that adjustment, didn't we, this year?
Yeah.
Yes, for this year.
So that's all I have. Oh, I can update on the ClearGov. Working on getting the setup of all that.
How's it going?
It's a little challenging. It's just a lot,
It's a lot.
trying to figure out
It's a whole
how
new
to work it, but
system.
it's gonna be good once we get it all set up. It's just
And the expected rollout, I guess, for that is in March or something, March or April?
yes, the data is there, ready. It's just setting it up to present a digital budget book requires a lot of information from the different departments, because you need to tell about your department, the things that are happening, that kind of stuff. So that can be set up throughout the summer. It doesn't have to be done by March. But yeah, we're gonna use that for budgeting this year. So yeah,
I'm excited about that.
It should be really good. Being able to compare, it'll create a chart at the drop of a hat.
Are we still planning to publish out, or, because I can't remember if we were doing it for 25 or for 2026 budget, if we were gonna publish the budget book?
As soon as I can get it all updated,
yeah.
we can use 25, but I just don't know.
Maybe
It'll take a lot of collaboration,
later
but
this year.
definitely for 26.
26.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to see that come together, and for our constituency to have the amount of information and data that's going to be provided within. So
yes.
It
I'm
will
excited.
definitely be a learning curve to have
For sure.
a budget without paper. For some of us, yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Tax assessor collector.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Ms. Cheryl.
Good morning.
Our month was pretty slow, but we did talk about that. The change in inspections began January the 1st, and we were overloaded.
Okay.
We had customers that came in and brought things out of their barns that they hadn't registered in years and years and years. So,
The government's just happening.
there was some problems when the conversion was done with no inspections on farm vehicles and also commercial vehicles. But as of January 17th, that has been corrected.
Okay.
Our office is also verifying insurance on vehicles. When you come in to do your registration, we want to see that the person that owns the vehicle is on an insurance policy. So we're asking everyone to bring in their insurance policy when they come to renew.
Oh.
We've found a lot of them that The
didn't have
owner of the
insurance.
vehicle is not on an insurance policy, and we just think that that needs to happen
On the
And-
insurance policy for the vehicle, they're trying to,
to renew
yeah.
and register.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of title transfers because of that. They just never paid to have the vehicle transferred, so
Right.
they're transferring a lot of those vehicles because of that requirement. I'm still having a little trouble with collecting TABC from some businesses. They don't understand that they have to pay the state, they have to pay city, and they have to pay county. So I have gone out and collected some personally, but some smaller ones I haven't collected yet. So I'm gonna need to go out and
Well, I appreciate
try
that
to
due
collect it.
diligence, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I do not.
No.
Thank you
All
for
right.
your work.
Thank you.
for the explanation.
All right, constables. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions on the constables' reports? Oh, I'm sorry, the treasurer. We skip, Ms. Kramer, I don't know what it is. We just skip the treasurer all the time. So, Ms. Kramer, let's do the treasurer before we do the constables. Let's get you out here.
I will skip this check. You don't
Hey.
Good morning. I don't have a whole lot to say. As you can see, the numbers are in front of you. Anybody has any questions about them? The first 3 pages are the cash part. The second, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th are all of the investments and stuff that it takes a lot of time to work with. Keeping up with all of those numbers. I love numbers. But
Commissioners,
it
I will
all-
note that the percentage is anywhere from 4.5 to 4%, 3 point
Yes,
something.
that's now. Don't expect
Yeah,
that number to stay.
Just remember
Yeah.
that those interest rates may not
Yes.
hold.
Well, I just wanted to make sure real quick, because it's been a while. Y'all have probably already gone through this, but I know that there were a couple investments where they weren't initially meeting our policy, but my
Are you
understanding
talking about
was-
at the bank?
Yes.
Yes,
And
I'm-
did they fix all of that already?
No. That's why I'm going to work with Kirk and Shauna on possibly changing our investment policy to include municipal bonds. I mean, they're not a
Okay.
bad investment, it's just not in
It's
our
not in our
policy.
policy,
So,
right.
yes, as soon as
We're
I
just
get
wanting
that.
to make sure we follow policy.
Yes, because right now, yes, there's several muni bonds. They've been there for the last 15 years.
Right, because
so-
I remember, it was last summer, I think, since we last kind of dug into that, and I was just curious.
Yes. Yeah, but I will be adding that to that because goodly portion of their bond, their coverages to us are muni bonds. you
Yeah.
know. So there's nothing wrong with them. It's just not,
It's
wasn't
not-
listed as one of our approved.
Right.
Oh, say, what are you looking at?
Huh?
I couldn't, I was thinking you were looking at
Oh,
somebody.
no, I was
but-
just looking up at the screen.
Anyway, but it's all good. They're doing a great job over there. There's people that I work with almost daily at the bank, and they have helped us a lot. So again, if you have any issues, you need to come through me, because a lot of times they won't do anything, because I'm the administrator at the bank.
Yeah.
So,
Commissioners, I'm going to go ahead and skip to item number 13. Ms. Kramer,
Oh.
that's the accounts payable. Do
Oh,
you,
well, yeah.
do you guys have any questions on the accounts payable?
I didn't.
I need a motion for accounts payable.
You don't want the total?
Oh, yes, please give us the total. We have it, but the public does not.
cutting me off. $668,828.30. And the biggest chunk of that, of course, is paying our debt service check, which is a little over $416,000.
Yeah.
And then we have a truck in the Road and Bridge Department in there for a little over $80,000. But
That was
Well-
the patch truck.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to, do we want to expand on that payment,
Uh,
or no?
If you want to, I know what it's for, but you can.
the
if you
final
want.
one, is that what you want to say?
Yeah, yeah. The 416,150, this is more for the media and the constituency. That is the last INS payment that the court has. So we have a very big budget season ahead of us as the court proceeds to figure out how that percentage in revenue is going to be potentially allocated to future capital projects. So
Yes.
I just wanted to make that known.
Basically, after today, the county is no longer in debt.
Exactly.
We have a zero debt balance.
Correct.
That's what the public needs to know. All right. Do I have a motion for accounts payable?
I make a motion to approve accounts payable.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Constables reports. Commissioners, you have those in your packet. Are there any questions or concerns about the constables report? Ms. Carol, I'm getting to you. Any questions? All right. The elections report. Ms. Carol?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so today I have my annual elections and voter registration report. And if you look at the first report that I submitted, you'll just see the total number of registered voters that were for 2024 within each voting precinct. And you see the total ended up at the end of 2024, 24,958 thousand voters, with 827 that are still in suspense, meaning that they've not made changes or corrections to their address. And that leaves us with 24,131 registered voters that are valid, and if they came to vote, we wouldn't ask for anything more if they're still living at that current address. And then it's page 2. It's the annual voter registration report again. However, if you look at the registration start date, which was 1/1/2024, and then the end date 12/31/2024, that shows you the report that I pulled to show each voting precinct for that year, for the year of 2024. But at the bottom, there's a breakdown. There's 3 breakdowns: the number of cancellations, the confirmation activity, and then this bottom part, number of registered voters by commissioner precinct, really mimics what I usually give y'all every month. And it just shows you the breakdown in each commissioner precinct. How many registered voters are there, how many are in suspense, and how many are valid voters. Nothing else is needed in order to make any changes or anything.
Nobody cares.
6760. 6760, just so y'all know.
Hello,
Got anything else to
6289.
You gotta point out everything.
Welcome
We
to God's
expect
country.
that. Really, yeah. I mean, Commissioner Precinct 3 it's just the growth. It just leads. And then after that, you got Commissioner Precinct 2, which is coming in second place, but we're not placing
competing.
anybody. We're not competing at all. However, I mean, and the smallest precinct has always been Commissioner Precinct 1. It is what it is. It's going to be all right, though. If you go back up to the mass cancellation, I just want to explain a little bit. Go back down to that report. I'm sorry, Carly. And where you see mass cancellation, that number is really, really high because at the end of 2024, we purged the voter registration of records of those people who went through 2 federal elections in suspense, no confirmation of address. And so the state mandates that they be purged. So we purged over 800. And then you see the felons. We had 13 felons, and then responses to maybe the confirmations. We had 60, and then deceased over the course of a year. We had 343 people that were deceased. And then for the state, the 771, they were canceled at state level for for one reason or the other. And then the confirmation of addresses, we mailed out 1,001, and then we had about 592 that were returned, and then within the county, and then outside of the county, 60, and then just the regular changes, 1,529. So our suspense list numbers don't look so bad right now, but we have to go through this year and next year. So I'm sure that will increase again. But this happens every 2 years. My next report is the voter registration annual report. It just shows some of the things that we do daily. This is not just an annual, but it's over the course of a year, but daily we are processing applications one way or the other, or correspondence, some type of correspondence. And we also have to scan and scan any records or any information or correspondence that come in. So we make sure that we reserve those records of those voters, and we can only purge our scanning system every 2 years as well, so that we'll make sure we try to keep that clean. We still have yet to do that. We need a little help doing it from Vista, but that we're going to be doing that. And so your next report is the 2024 annual election report. Now, I tried to compound all this into a year about, some of the things, a look back over what we've done in the past years. What I did not include, or the time spent to conduct elections and how much preparation it takes to get election ready to be for election day and for early voting. But these are some of the things that we did, and we conducted the following elections: March 5th, Democratic and Republican primary election. You look at that and say, well, that was one election. Well, actually it's two. It's actually two. The only time it really comes together is with the clerks that we utilize, the judges and the clerks that we utilize, but it's actually two elections. And then we conducted the May 4th election for Burton ISD. Now, on the even-numbered years, we're not required, even as an election administrator, I'm not required to conduct an election other than the primaries and the generals, basically. However, unless there's a special election called by the state. However, I prefer, if they ask me, I prefer to go ahead and do it. So it'll be consistent with the things that we've done, however we conducted all of the other elections. So we make a little money. We have a 10% administrative cost that they actually pay us, in addition to the rental of equipment. So it puts a little bit of money back into the elections department budget that I can use, or that can be utilized for things that we actually need. And then we conducted the following runoff elections, May 28th, which was, and they were held jointly again, and that's the Republican and Democratic primary runoff elections. And then we also entered into contracts with the party chairs for this election. And some of the other things that we did, we met with the county election board, and you'll see who they consist of. And we programmed equipment, poll books, express vote, ballot marking devices, the DS200 and the DS450. They're not just sitting there and we can just start using them. We have to actually get those, have those program tested and all of that good stuff prior to use for every election. And then we also had reports that we had to upload to the state, and that election night reports, the partial manual count, and this year for November the partial manual count took us about 5 days. I think it was about 5 days, because they added the state required us to be more expansive on it, and to add more precincts and more candidate races. And so we basically had to do, instead of the regular 3 precincts, we had 6 precincts. And then I think the races that we did were the one local one we could choose was the district clerk's office race. It was just interesting, so it's one I threw out there. And then we had preliminary reconciliation report, and then we also had the final reconciliation reports that we had to do. And then we had to daily do downloads from the poll books to upload into Team the list of voters who voted early daily. We had to do that. And so we had to pull the list from our poll books and then upload it to Team, which is our voter registration system, so that if anybody wanted to look at it online, because from there the state requires that to be online the day after they voted, a voter votes, by 11:00 a.m. So we had to make sure we do that as well. And we also have to maintain the county elections website. Now this is almost daily, especially during elections. We are having to go and adjust whatever we put on it or add something. So it's a lot of work in trying to maintain the elections website, and the League of Women Voters usually tell us how well or how bad we've done.
They're not shy.
And I won't even tell you what happened this time, but a little slack. But they let us know so that we can keep on top of our website and what people are looking for. We'll make sure that we have it on there. And that concludes my annual report. Are there any questions?
All I have is, Ms. Carroll, this year I was asked to upload, you sent me an email asking me to upload my reports for, is that something new, this little portal, or is that something that's always been there?
It's not always been there. However, the state passed a law that we had to mandate that we had to start posting the campaign finance reports for the candidates online.
Okay.
So that they can just pull them up online and see on
Yeah.
our website.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't particularly like what it looks like when I post those, because it's individual names that are on the report.
Uh-huh.
And so I got a new system called Vista, from Vista, that allows the candidate to upload their campaign finance reports. Matter of fact, you don't have to upload them, because the reports are there on Vista. You just gotta register first as a candidate, and then you can go to the website, a link, and pull up the report that you need to complete, and then you can submit it right there online. And I get a receipt that shows that candidate has updated updated their
So will
report.
we not have to come to your office? The reason I'm asking this question is, will we no longer as candidates have to come to your office and file those documents?
Correct.
Yes, and it's so
Correct.
much easier.
Yeah.
We do have a person here, a commissioner, who has done it at least twice already, and
So,
she has said how
Once
easy it
you
is.
register, does it allow you to set reminders and things like that?
No.
For when the
No,
requirements are?
you just have to remember
I'm gonna
that.
send that request.
You just have to remember that, hey, this is due by January 15th or July, whatever. So, but
But it
it's
takes a
really
whole lot
easy
less
to
Yeah.
use.
You can do it online, that's
And
huge.
Commissioner Corn has utilized it several times.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your report. Thank you for what you do for elections.
Oh, may I say one more thing?
You sure
And
can.
for any candidates who are not sure how to use that portal, can come to me and we can walk. I'll walk you through it, okay?
Sounds good.
So,
Thank you.
because that's how I would like to start taking in the.
Well, it'll be
reports.
easier for the candidates and your office. It'll create less foot traffic in your office.
Definitely. All right.
You don't need to see me unless there's a problem, right?
Well, you need to come see me right now. Then. No, I was just joking. We're good. We're
All right.
good.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, Mr. Pacern, looks like you're injured, but you stayed a long
I
time.
have kind of a limitation. so
Mm-hmm.
that.
I appreciate
Yeah.
your patience.
Seriously.
But I thought I'd make an extra effort to come today, especially with a new commissioner, explain any questions that you might have, or help answer any questions you might have with this report. But it's a basic report that you usually see every month. We had 201 contacts and 70 forms completed on behalf of veterans or their dependents. Now, if any of y'all have any questions about what those forms might be, I can go into a lot of detail with them, or just hit some of the highlights with them, if you have questions about what they might be, because there are a lot of variation between them. But we helped arrange for funeral honors, military funeral honors for veterans. Roland Contreras, it's like some kind of an error there with Elmer Marburger and Patrick Elliott. Military funeral honors, for those, if you may not know, it consists of playing of taps, the folding of flag and presentation of that flag, and a rifle salute. Sometimes folks will know it as a 21-gun salute. That is typically seven rifles, that is 7 members, firing a volley 3 times, and that's why they call it 21. Next slide, please.
Elmer Marburger was a former county employee, Commissioners.
And Patrick Elliott was a longtime Republican party member here, and he was actually party chair, I think maybe more than once, Emil, wasn't he?
I think, I remember once.
Yeah, once for sure. I know I worked with him for years on this.
Great indication.
Carly, if you scroll up a little bit. Yes. So we end 2024 with an average of 67 forms completed on behalf of veterans and dependents and 229 contacts per month.
Almost identical to this.
And you see how that is very similar to 2023 and how that relates to the previous years as well.
And that's your annual report included with the monthly?
I wouldn't call this an annual report. This is just an ongoing average.
He includes that every time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are there any questions of the Veterans Officer, Mr. Pacern, who has waited
No,
very
as always,
diligently
thank
to
you
present
for-
this
yeah,
report?
for your service.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I need a motion for item number 14, Commissioners.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, ayes have it. We're leaving. Thank y'all.